Hi guys! Hi guys! Hi guys! I'm Maggie, and I'm here to share some of the most useful open source modifications for the Creality Ender 3. The Ender 3 is one of the most popular budget printers on the market. Because of this, there's a huge community of makers that have come up with some awesome modifications to improve the printer's performance and make your life easier. Even better, they're all available for free online and 3D printable. The first modification that we're going to talk about is the fan guard. If you're like me, you'll drop anything and everything humanly possible in this hole here for the fan. That's why this fan guard is super awesome. The first thing we're going to do is remove these two bolts holding the cover in place. We're going to set them aside and use them again soon though. Take the fan guard and line up the holes. Now we're going to take our bolts that we just removed and insert them again, holding the fan guard in place. Voila! The next modifications are belt tensioners. If the belts for the X and Y axes have too much slack or are too taut, they can lead to problems with your prints. They are difficult to adjust, but they do require an Allen wrench, so this modification significantly simplifies the process. First, we're going to remove the nut holding the bearings onto this large bolt. Then we will loosen these two smaller bolts holding the current tensioning mechanism in place, allowing us to remove it. Now that we can slide the bearing off, we will insert the spacer into the center of the bearing. This may take a bit of coercion, or maybe a lot. Then we will assemble our new X belt tensioner. Now we will insert our assembly onto the end of the slotted frame, making sure the notches line up with the slots correctly. It should fit pretty snug. Now we will take our bearing, loop it through the belt, and insert it into the assembly. The hole of the bearing should line up with the holes in the assembly. Take an M5 by 25 bolt, thread it through, and into a nut on the other side. Now when you turn the knob, you can adjust the tension of the belt as it slides back and forth within this slot. And now for the Y-axis. First, we're going to remove this large bolt. Now we'll loosen these two bolts, as well as the ones on the opposite side. Bear with me. Again, we'll take our spacer and insert it into our bearings. Now we'll assemble our Y-axis tensioning mechanism. Or try. Insert the assembly into the slotted frame. Loop the belt around the bearing. Insert the bearing into the assembly, and once again use an M5 by 25 bolt to hold it all together. Remove the two bolts from the original tensioner. Insert these bolts into the new tensioner to keep it in place. Now when you turn the knob, you can adjust the tension in the Y-axis belt. The next modification is the display cover. The Ender 3 comes with the back of the display screen completely exposed, so this cover will add another layer of protection. To install, first unscrew these two bolts holding the display to the frame of the printer. remove the display and disconnect the ribbon cable. Unscrew the 4 bolts holding the screen in place. Take the cover and place it over the back of the screen. Take the 4 same bolts that you just unscrewed and use them to screw the cover as well as the screen back onto the metal housing. Replace the ribbon cable and screw the metal housing back onto the frame. You get the idea. Up next is the extruder knob. It can be a pain threading filament from the extruder to the hot end, so this knob allows you to move filament a little bit at a time. Simply place the knob over the extruder and you're good to go. This is probably the modification that I use the most. It comes in super handy every time I need to change filaments, which is a lot. Another awesome modification is the bed handle. Without this, if you want to move the bed along the y-axis, you have to grab the bed directly, which can lead to some really unpleasant burns if you grab it while it's heated. I've learned this the hard way. To install the bed handle, simply remove the front 2 bed leveling knobs, line up the holes with the bolts, and replace the knobs. You will have to level your bed again. Now you can easily move the bed back and forth without burning yourself. Woohoo! The last modification that I'm going to talk about is the filament guide. When mounting the filament on top of the frame, it creates a very harsh angle between the filament and where it is inserted into the extruder. This can lead to the filament being shaved down as it's extruded or even breaking if it's fragile. The filament guide prevents this by allowing the filament to flow into the extruder at a less drastic angle. To insert the guide, take the first piece and snap it into the slotted frame with the opening facing up. It should be a pretty tight fit. Then, take the second piece and slide it into the first. Take your filament and guide it through the small opening. Ta-da! So that wraps up all of the modifications that I've made to my Ender 3 so far. Again, I want to mention that all of these files are open source and available on thingiverse.com. You can find most by simply typing Ender 3 into the search bar. The files are all free, but there is a button to tip the designer and show your appreciation. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.